What up, it's Shankster94, and welcome to Resident Evil The Mercenaries 3D Weapons Review. Now I understand this Resident Evil game is nothing but Resident Evil style mercenaries, but there are still weapons in the game, and I will review them like I have been almost every other game. So yeah, starting with handhelds, through the pistols, shotguns, ending with explosives, yada yada etc. But what I love about this game is every weapon can be used by every character. So it makes my style of testing it with a male and testing it with a female very easy. So when I get to the firearms, Mercenaries 3D's weapon system is quite unique. Each character is assigned their own weapon set. But as you proceed through the game, you unlock the ability to change weapon sets throughout each character. It's like Chris and Jill. Chris has his own weapon set, Jill has her own. You could have Chris use Jill's weapons or Jill use Chris's weapons. So that's why I love this game a lot. You could use every weapon with every character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first test each weapon by the character that weapon is normally assigned to. So that's how it's going to go. But of course, before I get to the firearms, I'm going to start with the handheld weapons. And the knives in this game are actual weapons within sets, so I'm not going to start with those. I am going to start with the grenades. So the first weapon will be the flash grenade. Alright, now let's test the flash grenade on some enemies. If you've watched my Resident Evil 5, you know exactly what's going to happen. The physics in this game are exactly like Resident Evil 5, so most everything is the same, as I covered in my melee moves review. So yeah, the flash grenade blinds your offenders, and it sets you up for your head melee move. Alright, now that is it for the flash grenade. Alright, now for the next weapon, the hand grenade. Alright, now let's test the hand grenade on an enemy. Alright, explosions, explosions. Alright, that is it for the hand grenade. Alright, now for the next weapon, the proximity bomb. And of course, it's triggered by proximity, but you can activate it yourself if you shoot it. Activates quite a big explosion, and it is a very good weapon to use on bosses. Alright, that is it for the proximity bomb. Alright, that is it for all the handheld weapons. I'm pretty sure there are no incendiary grenades in Mercenaries 3D. I could be wrong, but you've seen 4, 5, and 6, and it's practically the same, so even if I did miss it, it's not really worth showing. Alright, well, since the handhelds are done, now we're going to move into the firearms. Actually, we're not done with handhelds. We're done with handheld explosives, but not handhelds. We still got the knives, and there are 2 knives in Mercenaries 3D. The first one is Jill's knife. I already explained earlier. I'm going to test the weapon with the character it's assigned to first, and then I'll test it with the other gender and possibly more characters if something is different. For the knife is a great example because more than 2 people swing it differently. There's 3 people I'll test the knives with. Chris, Jill, and Krauser. So, first to test out Jill's knife. Or it's probably survival knife. That's probably what it is. Dang, she shanks fast. Alright, now to test the survival knife on a Magini. Whoa. Alright, so 5 shanks. 5 shanks from the survival knife to defeat a Magini. Alright, now I tested prior to recording. There is no damage difference between which character uses the knife, regardless of animation. Alright, that is it for the survival knife. Alright, now for the next knife. Krauser's knife. I'll just call it the combat knife. Okay, now let's test the combat knife on a Magini. Alright, so only 3 slashes to defeat a standard Magini. Alright, that is it for Krauser's knife, or the combat knife. Alright, now we're getting into the firearms. And of course I'm going to start with the handguns. So the first handgun I'm going to show is the Beretta M92F. And of course, I'm going to test all the firearms the same way as I did in Revelations. The small weapons I'll test in first person, big weapons I'll test in third person. Alright, I am gonna test the pistols on Zealots, or Zealots. I don't know how you pronounce it, but I'm gonna test the pistols on the Zealots. Because Magini, I think, are too weak to withstand some of the higher powered pistols in this game. But Zealots can take a lot of damage, so those are a good test subject for pistols. Alright, 6 shots from the M92F to take down a Zealot. Alright, now there are weapon upgrades in this game. They're similar to Revelations. There are weapon upgrades, there are melee move upgrades, there's a variety of upgrades. They're called skills, of course. You can add them or remove them anytime as long as you're in the skill screen. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. And of course, I'm testing the weapons skill-free, so they're not affected by any way. And I'm trying to give you the most default damage rate here. And even though it's not very specific, it still should be fun to watch because I'm showcasing weapons, not really reviewing them. Whatever. You get the point. Alright, that is it for the M92F. Now for the next handgun, the Heckler Koch P8. Alright, now let's test the P8 on a Zealot. Alright, so 5 shots from the P8 to take down a Zealot. Alright, that is it for the Heckler Koch P8. Now for the next handgun, the Matilda from Resident Evil 4. This is the only Resident Evil game I know that someone other than Leon can use the VP-70. Alright, now let's test the Matilda on a Zealot. Alright, so 5 shots from the Matilda to take down a Zealot. Alright, that is it for the Matilda. Alright, now for the next handgun, Barry's Samurai Edge. Alright, now let's test Barry's Samurai Edge on a Zealot. Holy cow. 5 shots from the Samurai Edge to take down a Zealot. Zealots are freaking strong because I assumed the Samurai Edge would be a lot more powerful than the previous 3 handguns, but I guess not. Zealots are just freaking strong, or there's not really much of a firepower difference, but I know there will be in the next one. There better be. So yeah, that is it for Barry's Samurai Edge. Alright, now for the next handgun, Wesker's Samurai Edge. Alright, now let's test Wesker's Samurai Edge on a Zealot. Alright, so only 4 shots from Wesker's Samurai Edge to take down a Zealot. Finally, we got a real good, powerful handgun. But it is not the last. Alright, that is it for Wesker's Samurai Edge. Alright, on the bottom screen, when you want to select a weapon, this is what it looks like. You could select any character's weapon sets for any character. Now, this one on the bottom right here, you unlock this further in the game, and that unlocks a secret weapon set based on 2 weapons. And one of those weapons is the next and final handgun. Oh my god. It's the Red 9 from Resident Evil 4. And I feel that since Krauser doesn't have a handgun in his weapon set, and he's the only male who doesn't, then it's only fitting that he gets to test this Red 9 out. And because he's a powerhouse, and so is the Red 9. The Red 9 is by far the most powerful handgun in Mercenaries 3D. The major drawback is the capacity. It's only 3 shots per round. I think there is an upgrade where you can change that though. Alright. Reloads just like it did in Resident Evil 4. It doesn't fire like it does though. I miss the firing sound of the Red 9. It was so unique. Alright, now let's test the Red 9 on a zealot. Oh, only 2 shots from the Red 9 to take down a zealot. So, when you're on a level with zealots, this is probably the best weapon set you could use. Because the other weapon in the set, spoiler alert, is a fucking 2-way grenade launcher. Alright, but anyway, I will be getting to that way later in this review. But anyway, that is it for the Red 9, as well as handguns.